What up, everybody? So I just returned home from the 2018 IAMPITH International Conference or Convention in Milwaukee, and I got, while I was there, 2 brand new pens. One from Huang. You've ever seen his pens? They're absolutely gorgeous. This one is Briarwood and Cocobolo. So there's that one. And I also got this guy here, which I believe is zebra wood. It's very, very, very dark, and I don't know if the camera will pick it up. There's spots where a brown grain of wood is shown up. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a little mini Kelchner. So I got these 2 pens, but one thing to note about pens when you get them, the flanges are always going to be slightly different. Every pen maker makes pens slightly different. So today, I figured, well, I want to get these things in writing ready, so I'm going to prep the flanges. So I figured I would press record on my camera so you could see how I do that. For reference, I have here just one of my own carved pens, originally turned by Chris Yoke. This flange orientation is my current favorite. It fits my grip the best currently. So essentially, I'm going to be making these 2 pens match the feel of this one. So we're going to start off with, we'll start off with Huang's pen here. I'm going to stick a Leonard principle in there just to get it started off with. Now the way Huang has it set up already, the nib is nice and tight. If it wasn't, I would, well here, let's pretend it wasn't, and I'll show you what I would do. If this nib was not super tight, rather than change this whole, the entire flange and the geometry and everything, I'm going to pinch just this back corner. Just a tiny little pinch in the back corner. Now this is not necessarily, this is not the only way to do this. This is maybe not the best way to do this. This is just how I do it with all of my pens, and it works the best for me. So now when I stick the pen in, it's going to hit that pinch right at the back. So if I were to modify the angle of this flange, I'm potentially going to stress the nib and make it bend in a way it doesn't want to. But by just pinching the back, it's just being held just at the very back of the nib, so it's not affecting the curvature or anything like that. There we go. That's nice and tight in there. Now, how does that feel? It's actually not bad. Go back and forth here a couple times. Now this can potentially be a fiddly little thing to do. Alright, so that's the grip that I've been using these days. So to get this working best for that, really all it feels like it needs, I'm going to cant in the nib just a little bit. So to do that, I'm going to pinch right here. I'm going to pinch the wood, because you don't want to just bend the flange and you potentially crack the wood. So you're going to pinch the wood right here. Just going to give this a little bend, like so. Go just in little increments. That's not bad. Now, for me personally, I want this nib to be a little bit more, I want it to be this way a little bit more, which to do that, I'm going to take these pliers, grab them here, and I'm going to, again, holding the pen nice and solid, the wood, bend this way, just a little bit. Okay, that may have done it. So that was just a small little modification in the angle of the nib. It probably ended up changing the tip only like probably less than 1/8 of an inch, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. But now it's sitting a little more, I might have even gone a little too much. Compare here. How this one feels, which currently in my head feels perfect for the way I write. It's what I like the most. I'll go to this one. I might have gone a little bit too much there. Take that back Just a little bit. That feels really good. Minus the fact that this is an old nib and it's scratchy. That feels great. Okay, cool. So that one is done. Tell you what, let me zoom in a little bit more. I should be doing this zoomed in so you can see a little more what I'm doing. Zoom! Alright, now let me show you once again. So this is the way I like the pen to hold, coming out at that angle for my current grip. I line my paper along the angle of my pen. The way the pen sits in my hand, that is how I orient my paper when I'm writing. That's just kind of my little own personal way to know what I like best. So there we go. Alright, now let's look at this guy here. After our little adjustment, is sitting pretty much exactly where I want it to be, and it feels, I mean, like I said, I changed the cant. It was very, very little, and then I forced this to bend in at the tip just a little bit to change the tip point, maybe like a 1/16 of an inch or even potentially less. But for the way that my hand is trained, because of the pens that I use, it makes a world of a difference, basically. So much more happy with this now. Looking forward to inking it and putting it through its paces. All right, so now we're going to move on to the Ink Slinger pen. Now this one, let me show you here. Hopefully the pen can, or the camera can pick it up. This one, if you notice, on my flange cut here, so dark. The flange is cut flat, coming basically straight into the pen. The way Ink Slinger does it, it at an angle. So what that does, this one is much different, or much more different. It again holds nice and tight in there. So if I needed to, I would pinch this back corner, but it's held pretty tight, so I'm just gonna leave it. Now we see here, let me see if you can see. Do you see the angle that the nib is taking in regards to the pen? With the pen coming out this way and the angle's coming there. Whereas the way I'm used to writing, the pen is angled just slightly. It's almost coming straight out of the pen, or the nib is almost coming straight out of the pen and not angling up. Now many people like the nib angled up like this. This is not me saying that that is wrong. Many incredible penmen write that way, and it's totally good and potentially better for them than my pen would be. But for the way I like to write and for the way I like to hold my pen, that ends up having the nib, in my opinion, too shallow. I want it to be a little higher. So to get that, we're just going to take this, again, pinching the wood so that I do not crack it, because that would be terrible. And I'm just bending this way, just bending that nib down. Just a little bit. And a lot of it, I don't know if you could actually tell here, less than bending the tip down, I'm more so bending the base up. Yeah, if I bend this so it flares up a little bit, that's going to naturally bring the tip down. Okay, that might be a little more what we're looking for. Oh, we're getting closer. Come on, camera, focus. Alright, so you notice now, you can see the difference. Whereas before the nib was coming out at quite a substantial angle, now it's much flatter. Now the same thing as Huang's pen, I feel like I want, well, we can probably go a little bit farther, but I feel like I want that tip to be a little more, there we go. I want this tip now to be a little more this way. So what I'm going to do, same thing I did before, I'm going to grab my pliers here, and I'm going to be pinching this, and I'm just twisting in this way, just a little bit. Small differences here make a big difference to the way things feel. For me anyways. There we go. So what we ended up doing, we closed this gap in here between the flange and the wood. And now when I put that down, ooh, that feels so much better. For me personally. I still feel like we can come down. I think in doing that adjustment, the tip got raised back up again, so we're going to drop that down. And there, I feel like we have much more reminiscent of what I'm used to writing. There we go, that's a good angle, and that one feels almost the same. Wicked, so there you go. That is a good example of how I personally take different flanges, different holders made by different manufacturers, and modify the flange orientation just slightly so that it fits better with my natural grip that I'm using at the time. I will also say that over the course of me studying penmanship, my grip and the flange orientation and whatnot has changed a lot. I like to experiment with, like, the only reason I know that the way this originally was felt like it was too shallow was because I tested that. I did that and I just didn't like the way it feels. I've tested them where the nib comes out a lot more vertical, a lot more shallow and a lot more vertical, canted in for, like, depending if you're using a side grip or if you're using a knuckle up traditional grip, it's going to change the way that the flange is going to work best for you. So I've fiddled around with that a lot, and over the course of the years of penmanship that I've been doing, this is what is currently my favorite. And that's not to say that in a couple months or in a year or two that might change, but this is my favorite. This is what feels the most comfortable and what yields the best results for me. So I like to replicate that in these other pens as much as I can. Oh, that one feels good. So does this one. Alright, so now if you excuse me, I'm gonna go dip these and practice. So hope you guys found this educational and enjoyable. Yeah, catch you guys later.